Ladies and gentlemen, this is a News Now Nation special report. I am Dara Dukes coming to you from our studios here in Orlando, Florida. As you may or may not heard right about now, James Comey, who was the FBI director under the President Obama administration, leading into the current President Donald Trump's administration, has been given his termination papers. Now, no, James Comey was subjected to speak in West Hollywood at an FBI event. We just now know prior to going live here on Ustream that event will be canceled. Because, again, once again, James Comey has been fired by President Trump, and this has been going on, the potentially being fired, been going on for a while now. It's just what happened is it has to come the day after rather, Donald Trump fired another one of his officials, well, an official that was held over from the President Obama administration, who was actually at a Senate hearing, which I can't remember the name off the top of my head. I apologize, but this comes after one day after two Obama officials that was getting sent down to testify for Michael Flynn's untimely departure, which we now know that President Obama advised President Trump, then President Trump, not to hire Michael Flynn with the track record that he's had with communicating with the Russians. Now, note, like I just mentioned, James Comey was appointed by President Obama. If you are appointed to a position like FBI director, normally you'll stay on for a decade. James Comey was only a few years into his decade serving in the FBI, and now, like I said, within the last hour or so, he has gotten the axe by current President Donald Trump. Now, I am monitoring the situation from Twitter to make sure any new developments going that hasn't broke to my knowledge. Okay. So the person that I was mentioning not too long ago when I was making a comment about Michael Flynn was Sally Gates. Again, she was acting Attorney General, if I'm not mistaken, and she ended up becoming getting fired and testifying before the Senate committee, if I'm not mistaken, yesterday. Now, note around 6:11 Eastern time. This was the tweet from Dana Bash at CNN. The President of the United States called Senator Franken, who is the top Democrat in the Judiciary Committee, at 5:30 to basically tell her that the FBI needed a change. That was the signal right then and there that James Comey was going to get the axe from President Trump. Trump, again, sent Senator Feinstein the full warning, so to speak, to let them know that, hey, we need a change in the Federal Bureau of Investigations, and I am going to start that by firing James Comey. Now, it's at 6:15, this was from Frank Torp, who is an NBC News producer. FBI James Comey was scheduled to testify Thursday in front of a Senate Intelligence Committee, again, on Thursday, which obviously that hearing will not be taking place. Again, I'm just speculating at this point, since, again, James Comey is no longer running the Federal Bureau of Investigations. Now, 6:16, ABC News obtained a letter from Attorney General Sessions that was to President Trump, and Attorney General Rosenstein is recommending that he removes James Comey from being the director of the Federal Bureau of Investigation, also known as the FBI. Now, current deputy director, and again, this was on NBC News' rolling coverage, Deputy Director Andrew McKay is now running the Federal Bureau of Investigation for the time being. He is, like I said, the deputy director before tonight. He is the intern director of the Federal Bureau of Investigation, while President Trump is going to search for a new replacement for Mr. Comey. And I'm pretty sure this long search is going to be handled in due time. As I check my Twitter here to make sure we don't have any more potential breaking news at this point so far. Um, okay, this. Trying to make sure that we get up to date information. I don't want to provide any false information going on here. So, okay, so again, I'm just checking my Twitter feed to make sure that we have the up to date information um, regarding former FBI Director James Comey. And like I mentioned, for those of you just now joining, joining in, uh, excuse me one second. Okay, so according to Aaron Burnett's show Out Front, James Comey, and I'm quoting here, Comey firing came as a shock to many on Capitol Hill, including for the Republican Senator Mark Rubio, who learned via his alerts. So, for the Senator Mark Rubio, he learned via his phone, which I'm assuming is some sort of a news alert, that James Comey will no longer be running the Federal Bureau of Investigation. And again, just monitoring the situation here to make sure that nothing is of anything important that I can pass along to you. Now, I know we have some reaction from Capitol Hill. Senator Elizabeth Warren tweeted this at 7:11 this evening. It's time for Congress to get their hands. Excuse me. It is time for Congress to get their heads out of the sand. At real, Donald Trump cannot pick the person to continue this critical investigation. What she is referring to is that before James Comey got fired earlier this afternoon, he was investigating Donald Trump's ties to Russia officials while Donald Trump was president-elect of the United States of America. And if you also remember, James Comey was this person behind these there's an investigation of the emails which led Hillary Clinton, some say, to lose the presidential campaign because of the FBI's investigation, which later she got cleared 48 hours before the election. And as we all know, Donald Trump won that election. Donald Trump won the election, and there is no doubt about it. Let me see. Let me just make sure. Again, I am monitoring this. Okay, so also when James Comey, let me backtrack. So as soon as Donald Trump and his officials find a new FBI director, he will need to be confirmed by the Senate, and he or she rather, let me put it this way, will only need 51 votes. And which shouldn't be a problem because again, both the Republicans are running both the House and the Senate, so the 51 votes should not be a problem. Again, keywords should not be a problem, but again, in the world of politics, anything can and will happen. So the magic number is 51. Now, just more breaking, and this is from an NBC News producer. Senate Intelligence Committee Chair Burr, she issued out this statement. I am troubled by the timing and reasoning of Director Comey's termination. This is, again, I'm reading her statement here. Let me start back from the beginning. This is a press release, and I'm quoting here. Let me just get my glasses here to make sure I'm reading this quote verbatim. And I'm quote, I am troubled by the timing and reasoning of Director Comey's termination. I have found Director Comey to be a public servant in the highest honor, and his dismissal further confuses an already difficult investigation by the committee. In my interactions with the director and with the Bureau under his leadership, he and the FBI have always been straightforward with our committee. Director Comey has been more forthcoming with information than any other FBI director I can recall in my tenure excuse me, on the Congressional Intelligence Committee. His demission, I believe, is lost for the Bureau and the nation. And again, this is coming from excuse me, Senate Intelligence Committee Chairman Richard Burr, a Republican from North Carolina. That was his statement on the shocking firing of James Comey. Now, again, James Comey was scheduled to be in the West Coast tonight for a FBI FBI speech or something to do with the Federal Bureau of Investigation. That has since been canceled, and that statement I read you just right there is from a Republican. Now, note, if you remember, James Comey was responsible for the Hillary Clinton emails and clearing her within the first couple of days of the within the 40 hours leading up to the presidential elections, meaning that 40 hours before the people voted, that's when she got cleared of any wrongdoing of those presidential emails. And and again, I'm just checking to make sure that anything is okay. So this is from Jane Ali Melber, chief legal correspondent over at MSNBC. Officials contradicting Trump stories, telling New York Times idea came from White House. Sessions has been charged with coming up the reasons to fire him. So it was Attorney General Jeff Sessions, which follows what we reported here, that at 6:16 this evening, ABC News obtains letter from Attorney General Jeff Sessions to President Trump, and Attorney General Rosen is recommending James Comey being removed from being President of the United States. Now, again, okay, this is just then from the Spectre Index. James Comey was speaking to employees when he saw the breaking news on TV that he had been fired. So this just proves that James Comey had no knowledge of this whatsoever prior to him getting fired, and he is. He found this out on TV just like the rest of the world. So this is very, very shocking that he found out on air where allegedly he was supposed to get this letter from by the director of White House operations. Again, we are monitoring this breaking news story here, and this is what we're going to do. We're going to go to break. We're going to find out more information. As soon as I find out more information, we're going to come back on with another live edition of this News Now Nation special report. So we'll be right back for part 2 of our coverage of Director Comey being fired.